Thank you for being with you today. My presentation is related to the creation of a thesaurus in the maritime heritage field, a controlled vocabulary missing from the specific cultural heritage domain. The suggested vocabulary could improve methods for archiving oral sources, written accounts, images, 3D archaeology, and multimedia objects related to people and periods from ancient times to recent history. It has been created to cover the indexing needs for resources from Greek Maritime GLAM institutions hosted in a maritime heritage platform of the research infrastructure EN.I.R.I.S.T. Its terms are derived from the collections which include objects and heirlooms, personal items, scrimshaws, archaeological items, shipping companies' archives, correspondence, periodicals, photographs from coaling stations and lighthouses. Although the construction of this vocabulary took into consideration specific data and their documentation, the goal is to go beyond EN.I.R.I.S.T, assist in future maritime heritage documentation projects, and aid professionals and researchers in organizing maritime heritage data. The long-term ambition is to improve maritime heritage data communication in general and to contribute in the promotion of maritime heritage as a separate cultural heritage branch. The methodological approach was sensitive to the history of the artifacts, the shipping history and terminology, cultural heritage and general vocabularies, as well as the pre-existing practices. Terms and subject headings already existing in the vocabularies of reference were leveraged. The rules and standards of thematic indexing, creation of monolingual and multilingual thesauri, and terminology standards were followed. Building the thesaurus was part of the process of the creation of the digital platform and an innovative element as there has been no precedent in the area of maritime heritage. It is comprised of terms derived from the collections, which include scans of models and designs that are related to emblematic categories of ships and boats historically, scans of navigation instruments and related items, other objects of maritime museums and organizations, and material related to the history of shipping. The research is primarily focused on a practical design of a thesaurus, which describes topical subjects visually represented in maritime heritage documents, photographs, and artifacts, but also caters for the completion of other doubling core fields in the cataloging process, such as the coverage and the type fields. It can be regarded as a cell and is definitely not a complete work, since the addition of new digitized and interconnected items will lead to a subsequent expansion of the thesaurus, and this process is estimated to be continuous. The procedure followed for the construction of a strictly controlled vocabulary was the use of a streamlined multi-tiered hierarchical arrangement and the placement of specific concepts within the hierarchical structure of terminology that function as key access points to maritime heritage collections. The basis of development of this project is the documentation of the digitalized cultural and archival material provided by Greek maritime institutions with the provided data.
Eleni, can you hear me? I'm sorry. Yes. Your slides are not moving, so we don't know whether it's frozen or...
No, it is intended. I'm
okay. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
And we can't hear you very well, so I turned off your camera. So, yes. Yeah. Is okay? Sorry for interruption. Okay.
No problem. I will speak louder as well. The basis of the development of this project is the documentation of the digitalized cultural and archival material provided by Greek maritime institutions with the provided data falling into the previously mentioned data typology of the platform. Although the construction of the Maritime Heritage Thesaurus took into consideration very specific data and their documentation, the intention was not to establish a static, country-specific vocabulary. A goal is, with the adoption of this vocabulary, to encourage reflection on how data are described and organized. Apart from accessibility for the researcher and the wider audience, it is also estimated that it will have immediate benefits to the cataloging staff of the maritime museums or related research projects in the future. As for the method, the procedure involved two stages. First, the monolingual thesaurus was produced, and then the translation of the reduced thesaurus was carried out, sometimes taking into account terms and subject headings already existing in the vocabularies of reference. The specifications of the corresponding a lot, as called in Greek, it is the background of standardization in Greece, and ISO standards were followed, as well as the international developments in the matters of construction and management of thesauri, but also the Greek particularities in the issues of language and terminology. For instance, the National Library of Greece subject headings, as well as definitions from the Center for the Greek Language in order to guide the cataloger or the user in the notes section of the thesaurus, were adopted or seriously taken into consideration. The standards followed can be seen in the slide. This work focuses on identifying the top-level concepts, facets, and hierarchies that will become its common basis, meeting the demands for subjective and disciplinary validity, but also taking into consideration wider cultural heritage concepts. So, top-level concepts were developed by adequate abstraction from existing controlled vocabularies. The methodology followed required decisions to be made whether generic concepts subsume efficiently enough narrower terms from different thesauri, and to determine whether concepts are comprehensively enough defined in order to allow experts and catalogers to assign the metadata of their exhibits to them. Following this methodology, an initial set of top-level concepts was primarily designed, based on other previously mentioned vocabularies, but also creating a first operational draft. Thesauric cooperation and terminology integration are highly intended to ensure reliability of the endeavor and ensuring that previous cataloging practice was integrated, at least as far as the first experimental set of data is concerned, and when put in practice, new entries and finer ramifications may apply. 4 facets, along with their hierarchies, top terms and narrower terms, examples, have been defined thus far. The material at my disposal indicated the need for further distinction and specification. The hierarchies were extended by narrower terms of classification for addressing more specific classes of categorization according to the material's guidance. The updating and revising of the proposed classification and definitions is an ongoing process. There was no established or authorized way of cataloging from the institutions which provided the artifacts for digitization in order to compare or base the research. This was a challenge which was addressed through leveraging other aids for the construction of the thesaurus. The vocabulary developed is subject-specific and based on the Getty Foundation's Art and Architecture Thesaurus and Wikipedia's DBpedia Semantic Thesaurus, the established National Library of Greece terms, the Thesaurus of Graphic Arts, and other Library of Congress vocabularies and subject headings. Excerpts from lists of thematic headings which are considered to contribute were also studied and adopted or adapted accordingly. In some cases, terminology reported in literature was also incorporated. I'm sorry, I have to drink some water. The current proposed version of the vocabulary was based to a large extent on the UNESCO Thesaurus and its Greek adaptation through a bilingual vocabulary of thematic tags, which is complementary to the UNESCO Thesaurus carried out by the National Documentation Center in Greece. The choice is not at all arbitrary, but it serves interoperability without sacrificing precision with regard to the particular thematic area. In this slide, the subject, this is a documentation example. The subject field is filled with a term from the Thesaurus, with the terms from the Thesaurus: coaling stations, barges, warehouses, and coal. The current proposed version of the vocabulary was based at a large extent on the UNESCO Thesaurus and its Greek adaptation, that is a bilingual vocabulary of thematic tags I mentioned before. And there were cases where a decision should be reached when multiple controlled vocabularies were consulted. For example, priority was given to the art and architecture thesaurus over Wikidata for this particular reason, and also for the granted validity this thesaurus already has. An example of this in the current vocabulary is coaling station instead of fueling station, found in Wikidata, as can be seen here. I cannot hide it. Okay. Also, research on specific trade unions sources was conducted in order to effectively grasp the occupational activities and reach specific terminology, enriching related terms and describing holistically terms that should be described, for instance, the term metal industry. The same objective was intended when combining terms from other sources, to build the terms closer to their thematic essence and building this maritime heritage controlled vocabulary based on a representative database of the field. Experts, catalogers from institutions included in the EN.I.R.I.S.T project, and not only them, have been asked to review one or more hierarchies of their choice and comment on their structure, content, or translation. A questionnaire has been sent for completion and was used as a measuring instrument. The questionnaire was divided in 3 sections. The first section examines the competence of the introduction. The second one reviewed compliance with the thesaurus building criteria as derived from a thorough literature review. And the third examines particular terms, hierarchies, and facets of the first operational draft of the thesaurus, testing structure, content, translation, and related elements as appearing when the user browses the thesaurus online or the Maritime Heritage platform of the EN.I.R.I.S.T infrastructure, selecting to view the metadata of items included in its collections. The thesaurus is built up of descriptors and identifiers grouped into facets, representing subdivisions of broad fields. As shown in the slide, each main term indicates broader terms, narrower terms, related terms, historical note, scope note, non-preferred terms or synonyms, and linking between the non-preferred term to the preferred one. 4 facets and 11 hierarchies have been singled out as access points to maritime heritage collections and are placed in the first tier of the thesaurus to successfully narrow down the scope of searching. Okay, these facets are concepts, material objects, activities, geopolitical units, and descriptors are economy, science, culture, information, and communication, item types, country, and country groupings. The orphans facet and hierarchy include terms that have an association relationship but are not yet organized hierarchically. As regards the construction of the facets, the process of their building was inspired by the art and architecture Thesaurus facet code and the backbone Thesaurus, a meta-Thesaurus, which proposes a common model of Thesaurus building. As mentioned, this Thesaurus is designed to be used at the Maritime Heritage platform NAFKLIROS of the research infrastructure EN.I.R.I.S.T, but definitely not limited. The typology of the objects includes objects and heirlooms that incorporate personal items, collection of scrimshaws, collection of archaeological items, archives of shipping companies, personal and official correspondence, periodicals, photographic material from coaling stations and lighthouses, and the institutions providers are the Hellenic Maritime Museum, Maritime Museum of Inoussis Island, the Piraeus Bank Group Cultural Foundation, the Naval History Service, and Photography Archive of the Municipality of Kea Island of Cyclades. The construction of the Maritime Heritage Thesaurus has been bottom-up, starting with more than one language simultaneously and non-symmetrical, since it is also possible not to have the same number of descriptors in each language. Single descriptors can be combined to express compound concepts since post-coordination was followed. Nevertheless, pre-combinations such as adding qualifiers to provide clarity or handle translation issues have been applied. The Thesaurus was implemented with Thesaurus Management System software supported by the Cultural Informatics Research Group of the Institute of Computer Science of the University of Crete. This system works in a graphical internet environment and provides for the construction and management of bilingual multi-thematic thesauri, in this case with Greek as the dominant language and English as the reference language. It follows the specifications of the corresponding EN.I.R.I.S.T standards and the international developments in the matters of construction and management of thesauri, but definitely also the Greek particularities in matters of language and terminology. For the terms, search, quick search and search by selecting criteria is provided. Users have the ability to search for a term in general as well as specifically by general field or combination of fields using logical operands. From the results screen, users can view the results, save them to a file or print them, or by clicking on a term, view that term's card. In the present application, alphabetical, hierarchical, and graphical presentation of thesaurus items is possible. When viewing terms, users can also jump to one or more term positions and the hierarchy to which it belongs and return to the top of the page. In the alphabetical presentation, all data relating to a descriptor are displayed as well as cross-references from non-descriptors, the non-preferred terms, to descriptors, the preferred terms. Details of the displayed data can be found in the legend. In hierarchical presentation, the position of a term in the hierarchy to which it belongs is shown. As mentioned, this presentation can also be saved and printed. The graphical presentation shows the entire tree of a hierarchy, including the terms and their position in the hierarchy. Different colors help to represent the relationships within it. This is my presentation regarding the future development of the thesaurus, the population of the thesaurus with terms from maritime legislation documents is currently designed. So thank you for your attention.